Hey everyone, this is Dr. Samantha Brody, and I am going to be answering your questions today about protein powder. I'm just double checking, making sure things are going here. They are. Okay. This is my first time doing a Facebook Live, so bear with me. There are probably going to be some glitches. I'll just call that out up front. I hope I'm going to be able to get to all of your questions. You can pop them into the comment line on my, hi Maya, on my page, and I will be happy to kind of answer questions as we go as well. So first thing, I'm going to call out my disclaimer that my lawyer makes me shout every time that I do any kind of talk or write anything anywhere. I like to do it really quickly, like I'm an auctioneer, so bear with me. This presentation is for informational, educational, entertainment purposes only and isn't intended as medical advice. You should seek the advice of your own personal physician or healthcare provider before taking any action related to any information presented in this video, including the undertaking of any diet, exercise, or other health plan or program. That out of the way, I'm going to talk for a few minutes about protein in general, and then I'm going to answer your questions. So my first thing that I want to say is that often people feel like they don't really understand how much protein they should get. And my experience as a physician, face-to-face with people over the last 20 years, is that even though people are getting the amount of protein that may be recommended by the RDA, that they often aren't getting enough to feel well. And I'm actually going to first jump to a question that I got in my email after my blog post this week about that, because it's important, I think, before we get started talking about specific kinds of protein and protein powder. So a reader said, I've been a plant-based vegan for 6 years, eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Doing this cured me of candida, mercury poisoning, brain fog, and autoimmune symptoms. This lifestyle affords genuine health without adding anything. I work out, have an abundance of energy, and my husband as well. There's a huge protein myth in this country. There's protein in everything, including in vegetables and kale and apples. We don't need to add anything. So I want to touch on that first because, you know, there definitely are people, first of all, who are vegans or vegetarians for ethical reasons. That gets, as far as I'm concerned, that trumps all, and we try to figure out a way to make sure those folks are getting enough protein. But I will say that the RDA and the recommended amounts don't often make people feel as well as they could. And my experience face-to-face with folks is that when we do get protein up, people across the board feel much better. So we, oh, hi Diana. So we would, so I really work with people to increase their protein independent of whether they're vegetarian or not. And I'm going to be talking about specific ways to do that. But for instance, an apple is mostly sugar. And I'm not saying that an apple isn't healthy, because obviously it is, but it's certainly not a good source of protein. All right, I'm going to start at the top here at the questions I got on my pages and in my email. So the first is, I guess, just the basics, how to figure out how much protein we need, what types of protein to look for in a protein powder, and the definite no-no ingredients. How much protein powder in a day is too much? I tend to use it in a smoothie, but if I have coconut yogurt as a meal, I might also put some in it. Okay, so I personally feel that the closer we can get to food the way that it comes out of the earth, the better it is for us, which means that I prefer people to choose, say, a chicken breast than a couple scoops of protein powder. That said, the protein powder can be a very good kind of boost for folks who are trying to get enough protein in their diets. Diana posted on the feed that her 14-year-old daughter's an ethical vegetarian and a competitive swimmer and needs 100 grams of protein per day. I actually agree with that. And I have a couple of articles on ethical vegetarianism in general, and that, as I said, is going to really trump everything else. What we really do with deciding how much protein people need, for me, when I work with folks, is very individual. I will say that I shoot for 30 grams of protein per meal as a rule, but that varies from person to person. Again, my experience, I know I see some actual folks who are on this, who are on the Facebook Live right now, who I've talked to extensively about this and who have had really good results trying to increase their protein with protein powders added to what they're doing. So let me touch on that first. So shooting for 30 per meal. For athletes, it can be higher than that. Protein powders as a supplement are great. Again, my preference is real food where we can do that, where our ethics have comfort in that continuum. So the different types of protein powder, there are a lot of different kinds. When I first started using protein powder was probably about 20 years ago, and all we had was soy protein powder and whey protein powder. Whey protein powder is made from dairy. It is one of the more absorbable kinds of protein powder. It tends to have a least texturally problematic addition to our food. So when people tolerate dairy, I often will recommend whey protein. I got a few questions about additives in protein powder. A lot of the protein powders that you'll find have sweeteners in them, and I prefer people just to get plain protein powder and either add it to their food or to make a smoothie with real food, watching the protein carb ratio. So it's very helpful to get more protein, but if you're going to offset that with protein powder, if you're going to offset that with, 3 pieces of fruit, now you've had 20 grams of sugar per piece of fruit. So that could be up to about 50 grams of sugar that people are adding to smoothies, 4.2 grams of sugar per teaspoon. So when you're thinking about how much fruit or sweeteners you're adding, I want you to think about that, whether that seems reasonable. Again, I'm not harshing on fruit. It's healthy for you, but it is a lot of sugar. So whey protein powder, the second choice, or the second option that is well absorbable, is pea protein powder. The pea protein powder can be a little bit chalky, I guess, would be the way that I would put that. A lot of people don't really love it, but I don't mind it at all, and when I'm mixing it with things to help the texture, it makes it easier. So if you put, say, pea protein powder in a smoothie with ice and half a frozen banana, you're not going to get the texture as much. It's the same thing actually with most of the protein powders. Rice protein powder also kind of has a chalkier texture. Again, I'm going to reiterate, trying to do just the protein powder without sweeteners and additives. There are, the dairy protein powder. The other non-vegetarian kind of protein powder that I love is called hydrolyzed collagen protein powder. This is my favorite right now because it doesn't add any texture and it barely adds any taste. It's not suitable for vegans because it's made from either cow bones or from fish. The brand that I've been using is called Custom Collagen, and I actually this morning, I have it in my, this looks like a very healthy smoothie, but actually it's protein powder and green tea powder and unsweetened hemp milk. So it's not a green smoothie. One of these days I'll start adding spinach to it, but for now it's just a quick mix. And the collagen protein just mixes directly in without affecting the texture. My experience is that more than 4 or 5 tablespoons a day can cause some stomach upset for some people, but in general, people really like it because it's easy to mix into things. You can mix it into food, you can bake with it. It doesn't have as much protein per scoop as some of the others like whey or pea or rice protein, so what I often will do is use it as kind of a boost along with the other protein powders. I do want to touch on that quickly back to that first question. The person saying they had coconut yogurt as a meal, watch that coconut yogurt because again, it has often a lot of sugar in it. I would say if that's not someone who's vegan to add the whey protein or hydrolyzed collagen protein to it to boost the protein and maybe have another protein item on the side if need be. All right, people, go ahead and post, if you have additional questions, go ahead and pop them in the comments there as I'm going. All right, Cheryl asked, I want to add protein powder to my children's smoothies, but I don't want to overload their little bodies or bellies. Again, I'm not really particularly worried about kids getting too much protein. I think it's very hard for people in general to get too much protein. That doesn't mean people don't get too much crappy protein. So, McDonald's hamburgers and, deep fried bacon wrapped pork shoulder, although delicious, maybe not something people need on the regular. So for the little ones, I think the pea protein, rice protein, there's a great one called Soy Free Veg protein. And again, I really do not recommend soy protein or soy products very much as a rule. That's a whole other Facebook Live. Okay, so it's called Soy Free Veg protein, and it's a combination rice protein and pea protein, and it's very finely ground. When I pour it into the jar, it gets a big puff of powder everywhere. So that means it's going to mix in pretty well. So my kid likes that. Again, the hydrolyzed collagen one, melts right away. Oh, be careful, don't get the regular collagen one again because it turns into snot. It gets very phlegmy, so you want to get the one that's hydrolyzed. The other options for protein powder, there's some of these new, there's hemp protein powder, which is a little bit grainy, which I really like as well. It tends to be lower per scoop. And then the soy, the rice, yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of them. When you go to the protein powder section now at the health food store, have you done that? There are dozens and dozens of different kinds. There's also ones that are mixed with fiber and vitamins, and the Vega Clean and the Vega protein powders tend to be very good quality and easily absorbable proteins, but they can upset people's tummies because they add all of those other things to it. I had a couple questions also about xylitol and sweeteners in protein powder. In general, as a rule, I tend to encourage people to have fewer sweeteners, even when they're natural sweeteners, because what that does is it retrains your taste buds. We naturally want to eat sweet things, so if you can use real fruit to sweeten your smoothie and then to slowly cut down on how much that is instead of eating the powders that are sweetened, say, with stevia or xylitol. That's my preference. All right, I'm going to keep going here. Jennifer said, I've never found a protein powder that I find palatable. For sure, the hydrolyzed collagen. Try that. Another question about being veganish for heart disease. I am increasing protein from that. So I actually don't agree in most cases to prevent heart disease to be vegan, because I think that those folks often don't get enough protein, and they will tend to overeat carbs. So I'm not saying, again, they should go eat bacon wrapped pork shoulder, but fish and high quality lean meats along with tons and tons of vegetables, in my experience, is a better way to promote overall health and decrease inflammation, which is highly implicated in heart disease. Sandy just asked the brand name of the hydrolyzed collagen powder. So the hydrolyzed collagen powder, you know what, I'll go ahead and put those all in the links when we're done, in the comments when we're done. The custom collagen is one I like. Great Lakes is also one that's very good for the hydrolyzed collagen protein. All right. Kim asked if there's a basic protein powder without any flavor or flavorings. There's tons of them. Oh, another protein powder is egg protein powder. That would be one that I would go to, I think, more commonly, except for that I haven't found one. If anyone has any ideas, I would love to hear this, but I haven't found one that's sourced with free range or cage-free or ethically raised chickens. And for me, I have a very, very hard line ethically around eating any products that come from animals that have been tortured. I was personally vegan and vegetarian for years. I don't know if Michelle's still on here, but a friend of mine from college came to visit me. A friend of mine from high school came to visit me in college, and we went to Friendly's. If any of you are from the East Coast, you know Friendly's. And I ordered a hamburger, and she looked at me and she said, "You mean a flesh burger?" And I stopped eating meat after that for many, many years. And again, for me, I have a really strong ethical commitment to only eating products from animals that have been ethically treated. That's my gig, though, not for everyone. All right, next. I need a good protein bar to take with me. Any suggestions? Yes. Don't take protein bars with you. What I would recommend is taking a bag of nuts with you, or some ethically raised free-range beef jerky or turkey jerky, or some kind of, if you need a protein snack, something like that. I often will just throw an avocado in my bag and a spoon, and then later in the day I'll just pop that open and eat that as a snack. Most of the protein bars, although they can be good quality protein, do have sweeteners in them, either a lot of sugar, and by a lot I'll say 4 teaspoons of sugar in one of those bars, or they have the fake sweeteners like xylitol and or erythritol. And my preference again is for people to eat real foods where they can. If you are going to eat a bar, I prefer the bars that have that don't have soy protein in them, and that have either egg protein or pea protein, and again, the fewer ingredients the better. And if you can eat them with the protein, I think that's typically better. All right, what else do we have here? All right, I actually, oh, one more question. So I run the Gluten-Free Portland Facebook page, and someone said, as a celiac, what percentage of your diet should be protein? No matter what your diet is, I think that people should get a significant amount of protein in their diets to help keep their blood sugar stable. So protein is going to keep your blood sugar stable, which is going to keep your mood more even, which is going to keep your metabolism chugging the way you want it to, which is going to keep your energy stable. It's very, very easy for us to get off balance like that. And protein is a very easy way to smooth out those kind of ups and downs. So it's very hard for me to give a flat percentage that I think people should eat. 30% is a relatively typical suggestion for folks. I think it really depends on what else you're eating and what your own individual needs are and what your goals are. I tend to recommend more protein for athletes. I recommend more protein for people who have low energy. I recommend more people I'm scooting down here. More people for people who are tired, for people who want to build muscle, also really, really important. Eating protein helps you build muscle. I often recommend doing a smoothie after or right before you work out with a solid 30-40 grams of protein in it. I have a smoothie recipe on my blog, which is drsamantha.com/blog. If you actually search protein, I have a number of different articles on there about this. This week's post was about protein powder. I have one about how much protein you need. I have one about, Diana just asked about other plant-based high protein suggestions. I have a plant-based protein post on there talking about that a lot of the plant-based proteins are actually mostly carbs, like beans, for instance. Blog address again. I'm going to put that in the comments as well. Pardon the break. Okay. So Diana was asking about plant-based foods that have more protein in them. So again, it's about this balance as well between protein and carbs. There are the two major plant-based protein foods are going to be soy and gluten-based products like seitan. Often people develop sensitivities to those things from eating a lot of them over time. And I actually had a woman at one point write a scathing post about me saying I actively campaigned against vegetarianism in my practice, which is not true. But I hear that she felt not heard about her choices about ethical vegetarianism. So I try to do a better job of making it clear that that's important for me to support my patients who are ethical vegetarians. So soy-based products, if you're going to do that, I recommend tempeh over tofu, easier to digest. There's a new product called Beyond Meat that is using pea protein to make kind of meat substitutes. I got the burger. I didn't love it. I have a lot of patients that eat it that really do like it. If you're not vegan and you eat dairy, you can also do, cottage cheese, cheese sticks, things like that. You can use, there are a couple of other kind of meat alternative products, like there's something called corn, which is some kind of fungus. I don't know what it is. People like it. Quorn. Again, I really encourage people to get as close to real food as they can. If eggs are a decent source of protein as well, if people aren't vegan. Often I find people say they're vegetarian, but they are comfortable eating fish. And when they do that, I will really recommend getting, 4 or 5 meals a week of fish. And that can be very helpful as well. The protein powder additions, I don't have a problem with people doing that once a day to get a good boost of protein. It should vary which kind you're using. And so I will often have people have just a bunch of different protein powders on their shelf. All right, I've been going for much longer than I intended to. If anyone else has any last minute questions, go ahead and pop them in the comments. And if you have any questions you want to ask me about a specific situation, I can't really get into a lot of individual detail, but I can try to get them answered for you in Messenger or on the post. Again, my website is drsamantha.com, drsamantha.com, and my blog is that with /blog. I also do individual consultations both locally, and my local clinic is healthypdx.com, and I do distance consultations where I don't have my full scope of practice to be a doctor, but I do consulting and supporting folks with nutrition and supplements and helping direct them to what might make them feel better. Thanks you guys for showing up. I'm going to try to do this every week. It might be every other week, but pop on by again and see what I'm going to be talking about. And if you have ideas about what things you'd like me to cover in the Facebook lives, is that proper? Go ahead and post that in the comments as well. Thank you so much everyone for joining me. And again, I'm happy to answer more questions if you have them. Thanks. Bye.